Princess Lysera of the Zerathian Empire looked down from the tall observation deck of her starship, her golden eyes narrowing as the blue and white globe of the human colony below grew larger. She hated humans. She had hated them for as long as she could remember. They were reckless, chaotic, and far too bold for their own good. To her, they were a weak species, constantly interfering with matters far beyond their abilities. Her father, Emperor Zerath, often said humans were insignificant, a minor species not worth attention. But Lysera's hatred ran deeper. She remembered the human wars, the insults traded in interstellar councils, and the audacity of humans to think themselves equal to the great Zerathian Empire. Every time she saw a human colony, her heart burned with contempt. "Another settlement," she said softly, her voice cold. "And yet another example of their incompetence. Look at them, Father. Building homes on a fragile world, claiming it as theirs. How long before they destroy themselves?" The Emperor, towering and regal, looked down at her from the chair at the far end of the room. "Patience, Lysera. They are foolish, yes, but they are also persistent. Watch them, observe, and remember that persistence alone does not make them dangerous. They have survived, but only barely." Lysera clenched her fists. "Survived? They survive only because they are stubborn, Father. Stubbornness is not strength. It is weakness disguised as pride." Her father nodded slowly. "Perhaps, but weakness can sometimes hide a power you do not yet understand. Do not underestimate them." Lysera ignored him. She had no desire to study humans further. Her life had been filled with lessons about Zerathian superiority, and she saw no reason to question what she had been taught. Humans were inferior, and she would never accept otherwise. The ship's alarm suddenly blared, pulling her attention from her thoughts. Red lights flashed across the deck. "Pirate attack!" a voice shouted. Lysera's heart skipped a beat, but her pride refused to show fear. The Zerathian guards scrambled to their positions. Lysera's own personal guards, all highly trained warriors, formed a protective circle around her. She had faced danger before, and she would not falter now. The pirates struck quickly, their ship smaller and faster than the Zerathian vessel, but cunning and aggressive. Laser blast tore through the outer shield, setting off explosions that shook the hull. Lysera clutched the rail, her teeth gritted. "Shields failing," a guard shouted. "Evasive maneuvers now." The captain ordered. Lysera watched as the crew fought with precision. Yet even with their skill, the pirates managed to breach one section of the ship. Smoke filled the corridors, alarms blaring as the crew scrambled to contain the damage. In the chaos, Lysera moved with her guards to a secure chamber, but it was too late. A pirate boarding party had already breached the section. They advanced with weapons that pulsed with a strange, deadly energy. Lysera's guards fought bravely, but the pirates were relentless. A sudden strike from one of the pirate weapons pierced her side, sending her crashing to the floor. Pain exploded through her body and she gasped, struggling to breathe. Her guards tried to protect her, but they were outnumbered. The pirates had planned this carefully. Within moments, they retreated, leaving behind destruction and chaos. Lysera lay on the floor, bleeding and weak, her vision blurring. Her life seemed to slip away in that instant. She had faced enemies before, but never had she felt such helplessness. Pride and fury burned inside her, yet her body refused to respond. The last thing she remembered before darkness overtook her was the distant sound of engines, ships retreating into space, and the quiet whisper of a thought she could not shake. Humans. This time I am not safe from them either. When Lysera woke again, she found herself in an unfamiliar place. The ceiling above her was low, made of rough metal. The air smelled different, dusty, earthy, alive. She tried to sit up, but a sharp pain in her side forced her back onto the bed. A man sat nearby, his hands busy with strange instruments. He looked human, plain and unassuming, yet his eyes were sharp and intelligent. Lysera recoiled, anger rising instantly. "Who dares—" she began, only to stop when a sharp pain shot through her chest. Her voice faltered. The The man looked up calmly. You are awake. That is good. My name is Elias Carter. I am a doctor on this colony. You were injured, gravely. If you do not rest, you will not survive. Lysera's pride surged. I need no human doctor. Send for Zerathian medics immediately. Elias shook his head. There are no medics nearby. And even if there were, the poison in your blood is advanced, designed for Zerathians. You are too far gone for standard treatment. I can help you, or you can die. The princess's jaw tightened. She wanted to refuse to die rather than accept aid from a human. Yet her body betrayed her. The pain was unbearable, and her vision swirled with darkness. Elias moved closer, gently adjusting the tubes connected to her arm. Do not resist. Fight to live. You can hate me later, but now you must survive. Lysera's anger flared, but she could not speak. The human's calm, steady presence unnerved her. He did not beg, he did not threaten. He simply worked, focused on her survival. Days passed, and Lysera remained unconscious for much of the time. Elias monitored her constantly, applying treatments, blending local herbs with salvage technology, improvising when standard medicine failed. It was a strange combination of ancient knowledge and human creativity, yet it worked. Slowly, the princess's wounds began to heal, though her body remained weak. When she finally opened her eyes, she saw him working tirelessly beside her. She wanted to speak, to demand explanations, yet her voice came out as a weak whisper. Why, help me? She asked. Elias paused, looking up with gentle eyes. Because it is the right thing to do. You were injured and you needed help. I am a doctor. That is my duty. Lysera's pride flared. I am a princess, a Zerathian. You are a human. You have no duty to me. Maybe not, Elias said calmly. But duty is not always about obligation. Sometimes it is about choosing to act when it matters most. Right now, your life matters. The words struck her more than she wished to admit. She had always believed humans were weak, selfish, and incapable of true courage. Yet this man, with no weapons, no fleet, no empire, had saved her life. Outside the small building where she lay, the colony moved with quiet diligence. Humans carried supplies, repaired damaged homes, and tended gardens. Despite their own struggles and shortages, they had shared food and resources to keep her alive. One evening, Lysera overheard two women speaking quietly. We have little, but we gave her the best of what we had. It was the right thing to do, said one. Even if she despises us? Asked the other. Yes. Sometimes the right thing is bigger than fear or pride. Lysera stared at the walls, stunned. These humans, fragile and poor as they seemed, risked themselves for someone who hated them. She could not understand it, yet she could not deny the truth of it. Over time, she began to recover. She could sit up, then walk short distances. Elias continued to treat her, his methods unorthodox but effective. She began to notice his patience, his tireless dedication, and his calm courage. One evening, as she rested after a short walk, she asked quietly, Why do you care so much for us? Humans? Elias looked at her thoughtfully. We survive not because we are the strongest, but because we never give up on each other. We fight for those around us, even when the odds are against us. That is our strength. Lysera felt a strange warmth in her chest. She had always believed humans were weak, but perhaps she had been wrong. Perhaps their true strength was not in power or technology, but in heart and spirit. She did not speak again that night, but as she drifted into sleep, the thought lingered. Maybe humans were not the creatures she had always hated. Maybe they were something more. And though she would not admit it yet, she knew one truth that would change everything. Her life now depended on them, and on the one human who refused to give up on her. The princess who hated humans was beginning to see a different world. Princess Lysera opened her eyes slowly. At first, the world around her looked blurred, as if she were still trapped inside a dream. The ceiling above her was low and made of rough metal sheets. She heard the hum of a small generator, the faint dripping of water and the voices of people speaking in a language she despised. The human tongue. Her heart filled with anger. Of all places, why had fate left her here? She had sworn never to accept help from humans. To her they were careless, greedy creatures, always claiming they were equal to the great Zarathian Empire. Yet now, here she lay, helpless and weak, with humans surrounding her. She tried to rise, but pain shot through her chest, forcing her to fall back on the hard bed. Her body trembled and she noticed strange tubes connected to her arm. A human man sat beside her, his eyes tired but steady. His clothes were plain, his face rough from long hours without rest. "I see you're awake," he said gently. His voice carried no arrogance, only calm certainty. "Don't move too much, the poison in your blood is still dangerous." Lysera glared at him. "Get away from me, human. I will not let one of your kind touch me." The man did not frown, nor did he argue. Instead, he calmly adjusted the tubes. "I'm Elias Carter, doctor of this colony. Whether you like me or not, I am the only one who can keep you alive." His words made Lysera's pride burn. She wanted to refuse, to shout that she preferred death over human hands. But when she tried to sit up again, her strength failed her completely. Her vision darkened and she collapsed back onto the bed. Elias caught her wrist gently, keeping the tubes from slipping. "Easy. You're not as strong as you think right now." Lysera hated the truth in his words. She closed her eyes, turning her face away. "Why would you even bother saving me? Do you not hate my people? Do you not fear the wrath of my father?" Elias sighed. "I don't care about politics, I care about saving lives. Right now, you're my patient. That's all that matters." The days that followed were filled with bitter silence. Lysera often refused to speak, answering Elias's questions with short and sharp words. She mocked the simple tools he used, sneered at the crude machines around her, and demanded Zarathian doctors. But Elias never raised his voice. He worked with quiet patience, cleaning her wounds, checking her blood, and mixing strange remedies. He did not have the advanced medicine of the Empire, yet he was resourceful. He used local plants to create extracts, blending them with nanites taken from salvaged trade goods. Lysera was secretly shocked by his skill. Humans were not supposed to be clever with science. They were said to copy others, to steal knowledge rather than create it. But Elias did not look like a thief. He looked like a man who refused to give up, no matter how little he had. One night, when the pain in her chest grew too strong, Lysera finally spoke more than a few words. "Your methods are strange. No Zarathian healer would use plants for such treatment." Elias gave a tired smile. "Maybe that's why your healers failed. Sometimes the answer is not in tradition, but in trying something new." Lysera looked at him carefully. His face was lined with exhaustion, but his eyes shone with determination. For a moment, she felt a flicker of something she had never felt. Toward a human, curiosity. The colony outside her small room was poor but alive. Through the thin walls, Lysera could hear children laughing, people singing as they worked, and footsteps moving through dusty corridors. One afternoon, Elias brought her food. Simple bread and stew. Lysera pushed it away, saying it was unfit for a princess. Elias only chuckled. "Then it is fit for survival. And survival is what you need." Hunger eventually defeated her pride. She ate, though she refused to admit the taste was better than expected. Later, she overheard two colonists speaking outside her room. "We've given the princess our best rations. Some families went without today." One said. "It doesn't matter," the other replied. "She's a guest. We must help her." Lysera's eyes widened. These humans were hungry themselves, yet they still shared their food with her, a stranger who scorned them. Why? As days turned into weeks, her wounds began to heal. She could stand with support and her voice grew stronger. But her pride remained a heavy wall between her and Elias. One evening, as Elias was preparing her medicine, she asked sharply, "Why do your people sacrifice for me? I have done nothing for you. In fact, I have insulted you at every turn." Elias paused, then said quietly, "Because we believe in helping each other. Even when it's hard. Even when someone doesn't thank us. That's what keeps us alive." Lysera stared at him, unsure how to answer. She had grown up in a palace of wealth, where even kindness was measured and weighed. But here, in this small human settlement, kindness flowed freely, even to someone who did not deserve it. One night, the sound of alarms shook the colony. Raiders had returned, scouting the area. The people rushed to defend their homes, carrying old rifles and makeshift weapons. Lysera wanted to see what was happening, but Elias stopped her. "You are still healing. You cannot fight." "And you?" she asked, surprised to see him grabbing a weapon. "I'm a doctor," Elias said simply. "But I'm also part of this colony. I'll do what I must to protect it." Lysera watched him leave, her heart unsettled. Why would a healer risk his life in battle? Was this what made humans strong? Their refusal to stay in one role? Their willingness to fight for each other, no matter the cost? When the raiders retreated, Elias returned, with blood on his sleeve, not his own, but from a wounded farmer he had carried back. He went straight to work, tending the injured without rest. From her bed, Lysera watched him silently, a strange warmth growing inside her chest. She did not understand it fully, but she knew one thing. This human was unlike any she had imagined. In the quiet hours of dawn, Lysera spoke softly while Elias checked her pulse. "Perhaps I was wrong about your people." Elias glanced at her, surprised. "That's a start." Lysera frowned. "Do not mistake my words for praise. I still find humans reckless and foolish, but there is something in you I cannot ignore, a strength hidden in your weakness." Elias smiled faintly. "That's all we've ever had. We may not be the strongest, but we never give up." Lysera did not reply, but in her heart, something had shifted. The hatred she carried for so long was beginning to lose its grip. The princess who once despised humans now found herself watching one human more closely than she ever thought possible. The sun of the colony world rose pale and dusty, its light slipping through the cracks of the metal roof. Princess Lysera stood by the window, her body still weak, but stronger than before. She no longer needed to lie in bed all day. Elias Carter had pushed her to walk, to stretch, to breathe deeper each morning. At first, she resisted his orders. She had been a princess all her life, never commanded, never corrected. But Elias did not speak to her as a servant or a subject. He spoke as a healer, firm but calm. "If you wish to live, you must listen," he had told her. And slowly she found herself obeying. Now she could walk across the small room without falling. Her wounds no longer burned like fire. Yet something new troubled her, something inside her heart. The colony around her was poor but alive with movement. Through the thin walls she could hear laughter, tools striking metal and voices raised in songs. Humans, though surrounded by dust and danger, still found reasons to sing. Lysera could not understand it. Zerathians sang only during ceremonies or victories. But here, even children sang while fetching water or helping their parents repair broken fences. One afternoon, Elias invited her outside. "Fresh air will help you heal faster," he said. Lysera hesitated, her pride whispering that she should not be seen among humans, but curiosity won. She stepped carefully into the open, leaning on a walking stick Elias had carved for her. The sight surprised her. The colony was nothing like the shining cities of her empire. Houses were built from scrap metal and stone. Gardens were small and rough, yet green with life. Children ran barefoot, chasing each other across dusty paths. Men and women worked together to fix roofs, dig wells, and carry heavy supplies. When the people saw her, they did not bow or kneel. Some nodded politely, some smiled, and a few whispered, with wide eyes. Lysera felt strange. She was royalty, yet here she was, simply another survivor. A woman approached with a bowl of fruit. "For you, princess," she said kindly. "Take strength from our harvest." Lysera stared at the gift. These humans had little, yet they offered her food without hesitation. She accepted it with stiff hands, whispering, "Thank you." For the first time in her life, those words felt heavy and real. Later, as she rested under the shade of a broken tower, she asked Elias, "Why do your people share so freely? You have so little. Should you not keep what is yours?" Elias sat beside her, wiping sweat from his brow. "Because we need each other. Alone, none of us would survive. Together, we always find a way. It's not about what we have, it's about who we stand beside." Lysera thought about his answer for a long time. Zarathian nobles hoarded wealth, measuring kindness like coin. Yet these humans gave freely, as if kindness itself kept them alive. As days passed, Lysera began to speak, more with Elias. She asked about his people, their struggles, their history. He told her of humanity's many battles, how they had lost worlds but always returned stronger, how they had no empire of ancient power, but survived with stubborn hope. "We don't always win," Elias admitted, his eyes distant, "but we never give up. That's why we're still here." Lysera listened quietly. She had always thought of humans as weak because they lacked strength in war. But now she saw a different truth. They endured storms, hunger, and enemies not with might, but with unity. "You call persistence strength," she said one evening. "Yet it looks like desperation." Elias chuckled softly. "Maybe, but sometimes desperation is what keeps us alive until hope returns." One night the colony faced trouble again. Raiders returned, this time in small numbers, testing the defenses. The alarm bells rang through the settlement. Men and women rushed to their posts with old rifles, knives, even farming tools. Lysera wanted to help, but Elias held her back. "You're not ready yet. Your wounds are still healing. You expect me to watch?" she snapped. "I expect you to live," he replied firmly. From the shelter of the clinic, Lysera watched the humans fight. They had no great armor, no advanced weapons, yet they stood shoulder to shoulder, protecting one another. Farmers shielded children, mothers handed out ammunition, elders carried water to the defenders. The raiders, surprised by the humans' fierce resistance, retreated after only a short clash. Cheers filled the colony as families reunited. Lysera felt something stir inside her. Pride, not for herself, but for the people she had once despised. They fought not for glory, but for each other. After the battle, Elias returned with blood on his sleeves. His face was tired, but his eyes were sharp with determination. Lysera saw him treat the wounded without pause, his hands steady despite his exhaustion. She moved closer, watching as he comforted a crying child and set a broken arm with gentle care. "You could have died out there," she said quietly. Elias looked up at her, sweat running down his face. "So could everyone else. That's why we stand together." Lysera felt a strange tightness in her chest. She had never known anyone like him, someone who faced danger not for honor or reward, but simply because it was right. The next morning, she found herself helping in small ways. She carried water to the wounded, though she pretended it was only to stretch her legs. She spoke with the children, answering their curious questions about her glowing royal markings. One little girl asked, "Are you a queen?" Lysera smiled, faintly. "Not yet. Only a princess." "Then you're just like me," the girl said proudly. "I'm the princess of our street." Lysera laughed for the first time in many weeks. The sound surprised even her. That night, as the stars filled the sky, Lysera sat with Elias outside the clinic. The air was cool, and the colony was quiet after a long day of rebuilding. "You are different from what I believed," she admitted. Her voice was soft, almost reluctant. "I thought humans were selfish and weak, but I see now. There is something else." Elias leaned back against the wall, gazing at the stars. "We're not perfect. We make mistakes. But we try. That's what makes us human." Lysera looked at him closely. His face was worn, his hands rough, his clothes plain. Yet in that moment, he seemed stronger than any noble warrior she had known. She did not speak further, but inside her heart felt unsettled. Hatred was easy, but what she felt now was something far more difficult: respect. In the following weeks, trust slowly grew between them. Lysera began to share her knowledge of strategy, teaching the colonists simple defense patterns she had learned from Zerathian academies. Elias welcomed her advice, blending it with human creativity. The colony became stronger. Fences rose higher, traps were set along the paths, and guard shifts became more organized. Humans and Princess worked side by side, and though many still whispered about her pride, they accepted her as part of their struggle. Lysera no longer looked at Elias with disdain. Instead, she found herself studying his every action, trying to understand the source of his strength. Perhaps, she thought, humans were not weak after all. Perhaps their true strength was not in power, but in the bonds they shared. And for the first time, she wondered if her hatred had been nothing more than blindness. The sun rose over the colony, pale and hot, casting long shadows across the dusty ground. Princess Lysera stood atop a small hill, her eyes scanning the horizon. For weeks, the humans had worked tirelessly, preparing defenses and strengthening the settlement. Yet a heavy sense of dread weighed on her chest. The raiders who had attacked before were not gone, they were regrouping, and this time their numbers were larger, more determined. Lysera's body was stronger now thanks to Elias's care, but her mind was restless. She had never seen humans face danger with such courage, even when the odds were against them. She had once called them weak, but the truth now burned in her chest. They were relentless. They never surrendered. Elias approached, carrying a small crate of supplies. His face was lined with fatigue, but his eyes remained bright with determination. "They're coming," he said simply. "We must be ready." Lysera turned to him, the memories of the last battle still vivid. "And if we fail?" she asked, her voice low. "If they overrun this place?" Elias set the crate down, kneeling beside her. "Then we fight with everything we have. And even if we fall together." Her heart stirred at his words. She had never heard a Zerathian speak like that. To fight not for power or glory, but for the people themselves. It was an idea foreign to her, yet deeply moving. As the day wore on, the colony worked like a well-oiled machine. Farmers sharpened their tools into weapons, women and men reinforced. Fences and children carried water and food to those on guard. Lysera moved among them, helping where she could but mostly observing. She noted their determination, their unity, their unwavering belief that they could survive. Elias approached her again. "We need to assign positions. You know strategy, Princess. Can you help organize the defenses?" Lysera nodded. Strategy was her gift, one that had been honed in the halls of Zerathian academies. She mapped out the perimeter, instructed the Poi, humans, to set traps along likely paths of attack, and positioned the strongest fighters at key points. Her orders were precise, her voice commanding yet gentle enough to earn trust. Humans followed her guidance without question, adjusting her plans with their own creative solutions. One man suggested using water barrels to block a narrow path. A child recommended tying ropes across the ground as simple traps. Lysera realized that human ingenuity, combined with her strategy, created something stronger than either alone. As evening approached, the raiders arrived. Their ships darkened, the horizon, engines low and menacing. They descended with weapons drawn, ready to strike. Fear should have paralyzed the colonists, but instead it fueled them. They stood tall, ready to defend their homes, their families, and each other. Lysera's heart pounded. She could feel Elias's hand on her shoulder, steady and warm. "Stay calm," he whispered. "We can do this." The first wave of raiders clashed with the humans at the outer fences. Lysera watched from her vantage point, issuing orders as needed. Her voice rose above the chaos, directing humans to regroup, repair breaches, and push forward. Elias moved among them, tending the wounded, handing out weapons, and inspiring courage with every word. He was everywhere at once, human, healer, and leader. Lysera could not help but admire him. He had no fear, no arrogance, only purpose. The battle raged for hours. The raiders were stronger and more numerous than the humans, yet they could not break the line. The colonists fought not with strength alone, but with teamwork, clever traps, and determination. At one point, a raider soldier broke through the defenses and lunged at Lysera. She froze, too weak to dodge. But before the raider could strike, Elias stepped between them, taking the blow himself. He fell to the ground, bleeding, yet quickly rose again, deflecting the attacker with a piece of metal from the fence. Lysera's breath caught in her throat. "Elias!" she cried, rushing to him. He waved her back. "No time. Focus on the fight. Survive with them." Her pride and fear battled inside her. She wanted to protect him, but she could not abandon the people who had come to rely on her. Gathering her courage, she turned back to the fight, using her knowledge of strategy to direct reinforcements and identify weak points in the raider formation. Hours passed like minutes. The raiders began to tire, their attacks less coordinated. Humans exploited every mistake, using their small numbers and creativity to gain the upper hand. Lysera could see it, the turning point. The invaders, confident and cruel, were faltering under the relentless spirit of those they had underestimated. At one moment, a human woman lifted a fallen beam to block a path, forcing a raider to stumble into a trap. A boy tripped another attacker into a hidden pit. Small acts, seemingly insignificant, made a massive difference. Lysera realized something she had never before understood. Humans' true strength was not in raw power, but in their ability to think, adapt, and act together. Elias, despite his wounds, continued to move among them. He carried a child away from danger, patched up a bleeding farmer, and struck a raider with precise, calculated blows. Lysera felt awe and gratitude swell within her. This human had saved her life once, and now he was saving many others. Not for honor, not for reward, but because it was right. As the last raiders fled into the darkness, the colony erupted in cheers. The people had survived. They had defended their homes with courage and unity. Lysera, exhausted but alive, sank to the ground beside Elias. She could feel his heartbeat against her hand, steady and strong despite everything. "You did it," she whispered. Elias looked at her, sweat and blood marking his face, but he smiled. "We did it. Together." For the first time, Lysera felt a true connection to humans, not as subjects of scorn or curiosity, but as equals, as companions in survival. She had once thought them weak, reckless, and foolish. Now she understood. They were resilient, compassionate, and courageous in ways no empire could measure. The night settled over the colony, calm and quiet after the storm. Lysera helped tend the wounded, her hands careful and steady. She offered comfort to the frightened children and reassured the adults. She no longer felt like a princess observing from above. She was part of something greater. Elias worked beside her, still moving despite his pain. "You're different now," he said softly. Lysera hesitated. "Different how?" "You care," he replied simply. "You see more than I expected. You understand what humans truly are." She looked away, embarrassed by the truth in his words. Her hatred had been strong, but now it had begun to melt. She could not deny the bond she felt with these people, with Elias, with the shared struggle that had tested them all. As dawn approached, Lysera walked to the edge of the colony. She looked out at the horizon, where the last raider ships vanished like smoke. The humans were tired, bruised, and hungry, yet they stood together, proud and unbroken. She realized for the first time that strength was not measured in power or wealth, but in spirit. Humans had survived and thrived despite countless obstacles, not because of weapons or technology, but because of unity, courage, and heart. Turning back, she saw Elias resting against a wall, his face pale, but his eyes still alert. She approached quietly, kneeling beside him. "You risked everything for us," she said softly. He shook his head. "Not for you alone, for everyone. That's what we do." Lysera's chest tightened. She wanted to speak, to tell him how much she owed him, but words failed her. Instead, she offered a small nod of respect, a gesture far more meaningful than any title or command. That night, the princess who once hated humans finally understood them. She had seen their courage, their selflessness, and their resilience. And she had learned something even more powerful. Trust and unity could overcome even the greatest threats. Elias slept nearby, exhausted but unbroken. Lysera stayed awake, watching him and the colony, a quiet promise forming in her heart. She would protect this place, these people, and the human spirit she had once dismissed. For the first time, she felt true purpose, not as a princess of Zerath, but as a part of something greater than herself. The trial of fire was over, and the humans had passed. But Lysera knew this was only the beginning. Together, she and Elias, and the people who had trusted her, would face whatever challenges the galaxy could throw at them, and she would stand beside them, no longer as a scornful observer but as an ally, a protector, and perhaps even a friend. The princess who had once hated humans had seen their true strength, and it had changed her forever. The morning sun rose over the colony, painting the dusty ground in soft golden light. Princess Lysera stood at the edge of the settlement, watching the humans move about their work. Despite the exhaustion etched into their faces, their eyes shone with determination. They were alive, resilient, and unbroken. For Lysera, the sight brought a mixture of awe and humility. She had once seen humans as weak, reckless creatures. But now, after weeks of living among them, sharing their struggles and seeing them fight for survival, her perception had shifted entirely. These people were strong, not in weapons, but in heart, mind, and spirit. Elias approached quietly, carrying a small tray of food. His movements were careful, deliberate, though his face still bore faint scars from the last battle. "Good morning," he said simply, offering her the food. Lysera accepted it, though she did not eat immediately. Instead, she watched him. "You've done more than anyone could ask," she said softly. "You saved my life, and now you've saved this colony." Elias shook his head with a modest smile. "I only did what I could. Anyone here would have done the same." Lysera frowned slightly, annoyed by his humility. "No, not anyone. You had no obligation. You did it because it was right, because you chose to." Elias looked down, shrugging. "Maybe. Or maybe humans just don't know how to give up." Lysera considered his words carefully. She had spent her life relying on power, wealth, and prestige. Yet Elias and the humans of this colony had no such advantages. They survived on creativity, courage, and cooperation. And they had proven, through action, that these traits were far stronger than any weapon or empire. The news of the battle spread quickly. Soon word reached the outer colonies, then the neighboring star systems. The story of the small human settlement that had resisted the raiders, guided by a wounded princess and her healer, inspired others. Merchants offered supplies, and distant colonies sent volunteers to strengthen defenses. Lysera walked among the people, listening to their stories. They spoke of fear and courage, of loss and hope, of ordinary acts that became heroic through unity. She began to understand what Elias had meant. Humans' greatest strength was not in their power, but in their determination to help one another, no matter the odds. When she saw a young girl carry water to a wounded farmer, Lysera realized she had witnessed heroism in its simplest, most profound form. And she felt a deep desire to protect these people who had shown her the true meaning of courage. One afternoon, a message arrived from the Zerathian Empire. Lysera's father, Emperor Zerath, demanded her immediate return. He had heard of her survival and the humans' involvement and wanted her back before news spread further. Lysera's heart sank. She knew that returning home would mean leaving the colony vulnerable, possibly subjecting it to the Empire's control. Yet she also knew her father would not listen to reason. He valued Zerathian pride above all else. Elias placed a hand on her shoulder. "What will you do?" he asked gently. Lysera looked out over the settlement. Farmers were repairing fences, children played among the ruins, and the wounded were slowly recovering under human care. These people had trusted her, had fought beside her, and had taught her a lesson she could never forget. "I will not abandon them," she said firmly. "Not now. Not ever." Elias nodded, a faint smile on his lips. "Then we face whatever comes together." Upon her return to the Zarathian Empire, Lizara was met with a mix of relief and anger. Courtiers whispered behind her back, jealous nobles stared with suspicion, and her father's eyes burned with expectation. "Princess," Emperor Zerath said sternly, "you have been away too long. Explain yourself. And why are humans involved? In your survival?" Lysera stood tall, her posture unwavering. "Father, I have seen humans as they truly are. They are not weak or reckless. They are courageous, resourceful, and loyal beyond measure. I owe my life, and the lives of many others, to them." The court erupted in murmurs and shock. Zarathians had long viewed humans as inferior, barely worth attention. To hear a princess speak of their virtues was unheard of. Her father's voice thundered, "Do you forget who you are? You are Zarathian royalty. You owe your allegiance to our empire, not these creatures." Lizara met his gaze without fear. "I am Zarathian, yes, but I have also seen the truth of the galaxy. Strength is not measured in power or domination, but in courage, unity, and the willingness to stand together. Humans embody these traits. They are worthy allies, and their lives are as precious as any Zarathians." A heavy silence fell over the court. Even the courtiers, known for their pride, could not deny the sincerity in Lysera's words. Back on the colony world, Elias continued his work. He had expected the princess to return quickly, yet her message came, brief and clear. "Trust them. I will be back, and when I return I will ensure the galaxy knows their worth." The humans of the colony celebrated not only their survival, but the recognition that one of the galaxy's most powerful empires had a champion among them. Children played more freely, farmers worked with renewed energy, and the settlement began to grow stronger, united under hope rather than fear. Lysera's lessons had transformed them. She had seen their courage, shared in their struggles, and now their trust in her had inspired a new sense of purpose. And although she was absent, her influence remained. Months passed, and Lysera returned once more to the colony, accompanied by Zarathian diplomats and allies. Her arrival was met with cheers and admiration, not only from humans but from those who had doubted her. She walked among the people, offering words of encouragement and gratitude. Her presence inspired confidence and pride. She had become more than a princess. She had become a symbol of unity, a bridge between species, and a living example of what humans could achieve when trusted and respected. Elias stood beside her, watching the interactions with quiet satisfaction. He had never sought recognition, yet he knew the bond between them had changed everything. "You've done something extraordinary," he said softly, as the crowd celebrated. Lysera smiled, her eyes reflecting the hope and courage of the humans around her. "No, we have done something extraordinary, together." In the weeks that followed, the colony flourished. Trade routes opened, distant worlds sent aid, and humans and Zarathians began working side by side. Lysera guided the settlement with wisdom and fairness, ensuring that humans retained their independence while benefiting from new alliances. She often visited Elias at the clinic, watching him care for patients, offering advice, and learning from him in return. Their friendship had grown into a bond of mutual respect, built on trust, shared struggles, and the courage to face impossible odds. The princess, who had once hated humans, now stood among them as an advocate, protector, and friend. She had learned that strength was not power alone, but the courage to care, to fight, and to believe in others. One quiet evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Lysera and Elias walked through the settlement. The humans moved about their work, some singing softly, others repairing homes or tending gardens. The air smelled of dust, fresh earth, and hope. Lysera paused, watching a young boy help an injured elder carry water. She smiled, a deep warmth filling her chest. "This," she said softly to Elias, "this is what I never understood. The courage to stand for others, even when it costs you everything. This is strength." Elias looked at her, his eyes reflecting the colors of the sunset. "And it is something humans never stop believing in, even when the galaxy doubts them." Lysera nodded. She had seen their struggles, their victories, and their hearts. She had learned humility, courage, and the power of trust. And she knew that she would never again see humans as weak or insignificant. Instead, she saw them as what they truly were, a species that could endure any trial, overcome any obstacle, and inspire hope throughout the galaxy. That night, Lysera stood beneath the stars, feeling the gentle breeze on her face. She remembered the day she had first awoken in the human settlement, injured and scornful. She had hated them then, blind to their true spirit. Now, she smiled quietly. Her hatred had vanished, replaced by admiration, respect, and a bond she had never thought possible. Humans had healed more than her body. They had healed her heart, her understanding, and her view of the galaxy. And in that moment, Lysera knew the truth that would guide her for the rest of her life. Strength was not measured by power, wealth, or prestige, but by courage, compassion, and the willingness to stand together. The princess who had once hated humans had learned their greatest secret, and she would carry it proudly, inspiring others, bridging worlds, and proving to the galaxy that humanity's heart was its mightiest weapon of all.